Hello, and welcome to the IP Author Podcast. We're talking all things AI and IP. I'm your host, Saskia van Ryneveld, CEO of Executive Communications Coaching and actress.
I'm Samir, Raiyani, the CEO and founder of IP Author.
And today we have a very special guest. We have Sumair Riyaz, who is Vice President of Business Development in Europe for IP Author. So welcome, Sumair. We're very happy to have you here.
It is very exciting to join the two of you for this podcast. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
We're thrilled, and we're very looking forward to hearing what you're thinking about and your observations about what's going on, and also some insights about IP Author and how it's playing out for all of our friends in the legal industry. Now, first of all, we like to start by talking about what's going on in the world of AI and IP. And I wanted to share something to start us off, which is that there has been an announcement from the Academy that unfortunately things that are written by AI or performed by AI will not be considered for an Oscar next year. So that is the news.
Oh, okay. Which is, I think, really a bummer for AI enthusiasts in the creative world.
Indeed.
In our world, actually, it's completely opposite.
Yeah.
Patent offices throughout the world are actually very open towards practitioners like patent attorneys to use AI in their daily practices. Just that you're responsible for what you're shipping to the patent office. So yeah, use all you can.
Exactly.
Make sure that you're using it correct.
More AI, whereas the creative industries are trying to put the brake on it, trying to say no. But now, Samir, tell us, what have you been observing that's been going on in the world of AI?
Well, so one of the interesting announcements that lit up legal Twitter, the legal tech Twitter yesterday or the day before was this announcement of an open source bot called Mike. And Mike is supposedly does the same stuff as Harvey or Lagora, and it's open source. So people are very excited about the development. And this is all great because if you think about it, I've been in the tech world for a long, long time, and open source has always been exciting, right? Like open source always creates excitement, and open source only enters into a game when the stakes are high enough, right? Like nobody is going to build an open source platform unless there's a ton of money going to sort of the closed source versions, and therefore, open source can be another strategy, right? We saw that starting with Red Hat in the operating system space, and we saw it recently with Llama. Since Meta was playing catch up with all the model makers, they said, "Oh, we're going to open source," and all the Chinese models are all open source, right? Like DeepSeek, etc., etc. So open source only comes in when there is actual excitement,
legitimate excitement.
So to me, it's validation, right? Like it's validation that legal AI is here. Obviously, because actually we have an open source competitor. Well, not us, but like Harvey, right? So it's exciting, and it just keeps adding on to this feeling that it's this AI is all about legal in the sense that legal is one of the best use cases for this generation of AI, and it just reinforces that point for me.
Can I just ask why is open source such an exciting thing? What about it from the technological point of view makes it so exciting? As for those of us who don't quite understand the difference.
So open source, the business model is very tough, right? You are not actually charging for the software, right? You are going to make money, if at all, from the services. So a lot of open source, I mean, the history of open source is really, really cool, right? There's a guy named Richard Stallman. When we were in school, Richard Stallman was like God. He was at MIT, and he was like this ultra sort of, almost communist kind of a guy, right?
Ultra liberal.
And Stallman had this idea that, there should not be any copyright. So he came up with this concept of a copy left. Believe it or not.
Wow. Oh, great.
Right? Yeah. Anyways, so there's a whole, open source has a fantastic history and an amazing track record, right? Because Linux, the operating system on which everything runs, right? Like every server in the world pretty much runs Linux today. All Google runs on Linux, all of OpenAI, Anthropic, everybody runs on Linux. The world runs on Linux. And Linux was written by this one guy, Linus Torvalds, right? Like this genius from Finland. He just like
Wow.
hacked it and built it up, right? Like I think he was in college or something like that. Okay, so that is the history of open source, as in like free as in free beer. That's what they call, right? Like that, and that has a fantastic history, etc., etc. We won't go too deep into that. But the business model of open source was perfected by this company, Red Hat, which took Linux, which is open source, written by Linus, but they said, you know what? We are going to give our distribution. We are going to make sure it works really nicely, because Linux before Red Hat, you had to. It was more a hobbyist thing. You'd have to piece it together and make it run. But Red Hat like made it properly nice, and they give you a nice shiny looking CD. You guys are probably too young to remember. You could actually order a CD, Red Hat CD in mail, and they would charge you like $10 for it. And then you could set up your operating system, right? But then they found out that because the cost of the operating system was so low, close to zero, and it was such a robust operating system, businesses started adopting it, but then they needed support, right? Because, businesses always need support. Like, oh, we want to add this security feature, we want to add this. And so Red Hat made a massive business by supporting this open source platform. So you can imagine, right? Now, you are a law firm today. You have like 50,000 workflows that you want to automate. You go to a Harvey and say, well, I'm going to buy, and Harvey will give you 10 workflows and they'll charge you like decent sums of money. You go to Mike, and Mike, you just install it and it's free. All you're paying for is tokens for,
the actual use of AI,
ChatGPT or whatever. And now you can, if you have an IT department, they can potentially vibe code more things on top of Mike, right? Now, can they vibe code the same things on top of ChatGPT? They probably can, right? And all these things will play out over time. But what it shows is that somebody out there, the person who wrote Mike and who's going to support Mike, thinks that they can make a living out of just support calls from law firms, right?
Wow.
And they're going to undercut, Harvey or whatever, right? And that's healthy, in my opinion, because now, Harvey cannot charge whatever they want, right? And therefore, the adoption of the technology will be broader because the costs are not going to be a factor. And it's all about what open source has proved over and over again in many industries now, is that when open source, when there is enough demand for a product, open source comes in and kind of creates a more creates a ceiling on the costs of the technology. That's, I'm not an economist, but that's how it feels like to me.
The other thing that I would like to add is that with the open source coming into AI models, what will also happen is that the actual use of the underlying models will also increase a lot, because obviously costs are down. Therefore, people will use them more and more, which will overall improve the let's call it, say, the performance in the long run, because it'll have more data to work with, more users that would have used it for their use cases. Therefore, much more optimization overall for that particular technology area. Let's say legal tech.
Now, a question for both of you: is the user? So, if I'm thinking of an individual attorney, are they interacting with this new open source platform, or is this actually the companies like IP Author who are going to be taking advantage of this open source technology and then building on top of that? So who is the one who is really getting the advantage of this?
That's about the open source, and everybody who wants to use it, they would have an opportunity to use it in the direction that they want it. Like, for example, of course, there will be, as Samir mentioned, the Red Hats of the world that will create better, let's say, layers on top of it to make it, to productize it, so to speak. but also, law firms can themselves use it in the shapes and forms that they want it for their users.
But then would law firms need to have their own kind of software development coding teams to be able to be building things on top of it? Is that how?
Depending upon how much complex use cases they want to build. Yeah.
Okay. And so how is this coming into the flow of IP Author? Are there things that you're seeing from this that's making you excited about the different things that then IP Author can do? What are you seeing the trajectory of IP Author then with this new development?
From my standpoint, I feel that let 1,000 flowers bloom, right? Like this is just one effort. If they come up with some clever innovations, if the community develops and develops some clever innovations, we can learn from them. We can contribute ourselves to the community if it's growing, right? We actually put up. I mean, for me, it's not just open source. I mean, open source is kind of okay in the AI world, but source code, as we talked about in our previous call, was like previous podcast, was it, source code is easy to put together now, right? Because you can use agentic coding tools and so on. So source code is not a limitation anymore, right? Like, I mean, you can, whatever idea you can at least build it out. But what is unique is ideas, concepts, right? Like really interesting approaches, right? Those things are unique. I also feel that we have to go beyond source code now. We have to go at content, like what we are putting together. We have a platform that we put together called insights.ipauthor.com. I think I spoke about it in a previous podcast. We are putting all sorts of content out there, right? Like we have pre-digested every single office action that is coming from the USPTO, and we have already provided the strategies, ready-made strategies for how to respond to those office actions, right? That's going beyond open source, because open source is just like a tool, right? Like you'll still have to run it. Somebody will have to, do all the munging around. We're saying skip that. You got the data is ready. The work product is ready. Just use it. That's how I think and this is going to happen everywhere, by the way. There are people right now, script kiddies, who are writing up like all these code to say, oh, I'm going to write this code to implement this particular strategy for trading stock. Guess what? Like,
already happening.
Just the market, there should be a marketplace. There probably is, or somebody is building one where you could just select, like you could go to your, E-Trade or Robinhood or whatever, and you should be able to select like from any strategy that you can think of under the sun. You should just be able to click a button and that strategy should be implemented on your portfolio or parts of it, right? Of course, everything should be tested, et cetera, and it shouldn't, cause you too much financial harm. But we should be moving to a point, and we are ready to move to a point, I feel, where we have to move beyond this open source to open results, open action. I don't know what we want to call it, but open source, I feel, is like somewhat backward looking, right? Like it was very cool in the 90s. Now I think we can do better. That's how I feel about it.
Samir, do you have an idea of where it could be going? From your
I think
experience?
that's exactly what I had in mind as well, is that not just in the patent world, but also aside from patent world, legal world, people will solve problems already, and you just will pick up the solutions. That's where I think, because if you think about AI, what it has done is that it has become a multiplier of skills, right? So there were 10,000 financial analysts, let's say, on Wall Street working on a certain day. Now there are 10,000 times 10,000, or maybe even more, right? Because that level of skill that it has multiplied meant that for each firm, each possible client has already been taken care of, and they're available. Once you enter a firm, or say, just move aside from financial services, let's say go into any other technology or any other market, all those problems that people had was we have limited resources.
Yeah.
We can't pre-solve your problem. But then obviously with AI, those things sort of, to a large extent have been taken care of. Therefore, people, what will happen with this thing is, I don't know, we have to think of, again, a word for it. Maybe Samir, you talked about it. We have to think of actually a word that would actually, be the go-to word for this kind of a setup. Is that
Mhm.
I know what I want. There are 10 people like me who would have similar requirements,
Mhm.
and somebody would have obviously, solved this problem already. Where do I buy it? So
Exactly.
Saskia, I have the question back to you though. Like, what
Uh-huh.
if, for example, and this is possible today, right? Like, theoretically, that every possible movie plot, every possible actor combination,
Mhm.
every possible locale, N by N by N, are already done, finished, they're available in this infinite library.
Mhm.
And you, if you're like, producer like yourself, or,
Yeah.
like Steven Spielberg, all you have to do is just pick this, like,
I want a
and
little this, I want a little that. We just put it together, bing, bang, boom. But I mean,
yeah,
isn't
no, but
that
you don't even have to like, yeah, you don't have to exercise your imagination or anything, because every single novel that is written comes with its 10 different movie versions. Let's say.
yes, but wasn't there? I know that there was a clip that was going around at one point, which was kind of circling in the space of entertainment, and all the actors and writers and directors, everybody was getting a little bit, panicky because they were seeing this woman. I can't remember who she was, but she was talking about the future of AI for entertainment and the idea
Yeah.
that somebody could be sitting there and going, oh, I really love Ryan Reynolds, and I really want to see him acting with Meryl Streep, but I love The Witcher, and I want them to be in The Witcher. And so we're going to take the world of The Witcher and I want them, this is what they're going to do. And it's kind of like, play your own movie or play your own series in a way. Now, I
correct.
can see people getting excited about that, but obviously there's the traditionalist in me, which is going to say that, you can do a lot of copy pasting. I'm sure you can put things together, but ultimately, I'm suspicious as to whether the AI is actually going to be able to create the magic of what happens when you have two actors who are working with each other, responding to each other, and you manage to capture that particular moment. I think that for sure, the things like animations and locations, all of that sort of thing, that's actually what's happening with Ben Affleck. He's just sold his company, which is all about using AI infrastructure to create locations and create all of the things that would make movie making very expensive, and then reducing it down to just needing the actors, and everything else can be projected and created around them. But you still fundamentally need the actors, I think, to create those moments of magic. And I think you can see it because you can see it in films that do use actors where actors are not so great, and it's actually just not working. So as much as you might have all the budget and you might have all of the scenery and you might have, all the different plots that you could possibly think of, the chemistry is not working with these particular people that you've put together. And so it's not going to work. So on that side, I feel that maybe I'm
No, but I mean,
suspicious.
you can just provide the store of
Yeah,
the
Imagination. Yeah.
backdrops,
exactly.
the
Yeah,
the store of the props, the store of everything
of
is
course.
already there. And
Yeah.
to me, it's like, just around COVID and thereabouts, right? Like before, after, there's this whole direct to consumer wave, right? Like, so you
Mm.
can basically tell somebody, in any part of the world, there are many providers of cosmetics, right? They will
Mhm.
manufacture cosmetics for you. And you just have to pick your story,
Uh-huh.
and you have to pick the supplier. Like, okay, my story is that it's sourced in from California,
Okay.
and that it is it is it is around summer, right? Like, so it has, everything
Mm.
is SPF 40 infused or SPF 60 infused or whatever.
Great.
But I'm not manufacturing. I'm the storyteller. I
Okay.
am the person who is on TikTok, with my influencer army. But I'm not doing the manufacturing anymore, right? Like, I'm the storyteller, and I'm just
Mm.
adding that. So it's like, so that's the world we are going towards. I feel like,
Yeah.
I mean, I can imagine at some point, like IP author having the store of all the world's possible inventions, ready to go, right?
Wow.
And
And as an inventor,
the inventor just says, "This one is my idea," and they add that magic, actor magic to
yeah,
that
the
invention,
chemistry,
and
maybe we
have
could
Actually,
fun
say.
that way,
this
right?
this is okay. There are legal sides to it. Obviously, what can AI do, and
Of
what
course.
can we still call an patentable invention? I don't want to
Mm,
talk about that, but
mm,
on a practical side, I think 4 or 5 years ago, when, or maybe more, I think this is in Dolce days. I was talking to a customer, and they said, "Hey, you guys are doing AI stuff. We use your PCS. It's very good, and so on and so forth. Can you build a system for us where our engineers can, talk about what are the individual, let's say, elements that they're working with,
mhm,
right? So
mhm,
every invention has 4 or 5 elements, how they're working together to create a certain new effect, right?
mhm,
That's what an invention is. So how these guys are working on the elements, and what possible effects are possible. Can the AI work up by adding A plus B? We know that C can get made, but what proportions of A and B can make what kind of C? Can it be automated, so that we understand what is possible for our R&D folks? So people had these ideas even before. So yes, that would actually get productized in that sense, is that we could pre-compute with AI for a certain technology area. These are the various elements that are at play,
mhm,
or maybe there's this new element that we can even think of, um, and how would picking up individual problems, and how the solutions could come from various ideas. Obviously, inventors always have to be there. Humans have to be there to be able to, like, navigate this whole set of what, because obviously in a patent world, you have to go to a patent office and then show this works this way. It's
mm,
not just
mm.
theory. It's not just AI's imagination. I conducted this experiment. I used, but obviously inspiration to those experiments. Maybe AI can help, of course, already.
Mm, mm. I think that's been a theme that I've been seeing, that there's the AI is this replacement of the blank page. And so instead of having this blank piece of paper in front of you and going, right, okay, I've got to just suck out ideas and I've got to, think of exactly what it is, or start writing my patent application, or start whatever it is, and I've got my blank piece of paper. Instead, AI is this lovely work companion that goes, okay, you just do a little bit of a brain dump on me, and I'll give you all of the different things, and I can show you how to put it together. It's almost like, Samir, as you were talking, I was thinking back to my days of playing The Sims and playing video games and picking my character, going, oh, I want her to wear this shirt, and I want, maybe those trousers and this sort of hairstyle and that makeup look. And so it feels a little like that.
Yeah, isn't it? Like, I mean, so again, remember where we came from? We started talking about open source, and we got into
Mm,
this discussion of like open results, or open stores of
Solutions.
components or whatever, right?
yeah.
So I feel that we are going from open source, which is just writing code, to this open everything sort of a theme, right? Like where you have like these collections and like possibilities all fleshed
Mm,
out
mm,
to the extent that we need, right? Like in case of cinema, we're talking about everything but the actors. In case
mm,
of patents, we're talking about everything but the flash of an idea, right?
mhm,
In case of contracts, like one can imagine every single possible contract clause permutation is available to you, and you just sort of like lay out what you want. And
mhm,
um, and 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 so I feel that the current model we have today, where you write something and then wait for like the chatbot to generate stuff, I feel that is hopefully going to end soon, right? We are going to
okay.
go from
Hmm.
that model of us typing something and waiting, to us doing more selection and then
Interesting.
I was going to say that, when you
composition, right?
said that, this
Composition.
the idea of going away from blank page.
Mhm,
Sure, earlier I used to say, "Hey, ChatGPT, can you do this for me?" So
mm, mm,
instead of starting the whole text, now already there are 10 things available I can choose from.
mhm.
That's where the whole thing is going to be. If I don't know how to make dal, there is pre-cooked dal. I can get to my home and then make the tadka on top to what I like. But now with this pre-computation, there are so many combinations of possibilities of tadka that I can just have to choose from. That's what it is going to be like.
It's so interesting because I think there is that role that we as humans really enjoy, which is the kind of editing, refining, that kind of role. It's so satisfying to be given a choice or to be given something, and then you get to say, "Oh, I think it needs to be a bit better by adding a little bit of this or adding a little bit of that," rather than starting from complete zero. I think that there's something that we like about being able to be critical and, but also to be excited and to suggest improvements and to see how something that can grow. So, which is always interesting because Samir, you and I have been talking about this, the role of the attorney as well, or the role of you as a human interacting with AI and reinforcing this idea that it is an interactive process and that you are there as a guide and you are there also being the instructor, and it's there. So there is that interactive element. And I think that's important as we're talking about the legal space, to say what is the role of people, what are the roles of the attorneys and their interactions with the inventors and in terms of law firms as well, and what is that important element of the human element. And maybe, as you say, Sumair, it's to be able to improve on what's being offered to them and to be able to guide and to be able to, as we were talking about taste, I think in our last podcast, the sense of taste and being able to be like, that's my particular taste. And out of all these options that are being given to me, I would prefer to go, this particular storyline with those particular actors in this particular setting. Do you think that's an accurate? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think what we are saying is that in a world where there is plentiful options that are prepared for you, like all the possible lentil combinations, so you have every possible dal variation available to you, like what is it that is going to be your sort of contribution, right? And that is really the world we are getting into now, right? Like where you have that, but what is your contribution? And if you are on like food TikTok, right? Like, food talk as they call it, I guess. If you're on food talk, that like there's just infinite number of interesting innovations being done, right? Because even though you could have every possible combinations of lentils, they won't work. They won't taste good. And that's where the tastemaker comes in. And I think that's where we are going. We are all becoming tastemakers. We are all becoming influencers, right? That is what inventors are going to become. That's what actors, directors are going to. I mean, they've always been tastemakers, but even more,
Yeah.
there was this whole sort of, there was this room for, and I don't know, I mean, again, you can correct me, Saskia, there was this room for the technically proficient director, right, who couldn't tell a really good story, but they were so good with the techniques that they could, still make
Exactly.
bank, right? But I think like the techniques being commoditized, therefore now the storyteller comes to the fore.
Exactly. Yeah. Totally. It's not, if everybody has a camera and everybody is able to create special effects and everybody is able to do all of those fancy things, then it comes down to what is the thing that is the most impactful, and that is the story. Because often movies can fail on their stories, or plays as well fail on the stories. It's got to be the thing that moves us, and it has to speak to the heart of the audience. So
Correct. And if you were to sort of, make a contrast to what you were talking to, the world that we, obviously, Samir and I mostly, live on a daily basis, is that, obviously, you can imagine so much power available, so much, opportunities and updates happening to the actual models. You know, let us probably, like the likes of IP author, be those folks who would put together right pieces from this from these models that are obviously becoming faster and efficient and more skillful, to pick up the right pieces from probably different models or maybe even the same model, and putting that together in such a shape and a form, in the form of, let's say, a workflow that actually makes sense for a pattern practitioner. And this is, I think, something that, obviously some people are even arguing, hey, with the models becoming so strong, would the likes of Harveys of the world, or even IP officers of the world, or, whatever else other technological areas people are building products in, would they even matter? Or would what would be the significance of these things? Is exactly this thing, is that we still need the tastemakers. We still need the folks who would use these individual skills and elements and capabilities and put that together in the form of a work product. And so that the actual user, the patent attorneys of the world, don't have to do that every day, don't have to build that work profile or that flow for them. It's pre-made. And what is pre-made is what works. So that they don't have to experiment again and pick up 5 combinations of lentils and then say, oh, today I think for this kind of a problem, this lentil will work. Because, the folks like IP author, for example, we are creating the best, workflows on top of these models. We are choosing the right capabilities, the right skills for each task that a patent attorney needs throughout that life cycle of drafting a patent, for example, or responding to an office action. Because there are some models that work today very well to to read non-textual information, for example, from figures, a very important part of patenting process. And on a different day, a slightly different model will have that capacity. So to be able to triage all of that and put that together on a platter for a practitioner, I think obviously would still have a lot of value going forward. And this is where we believe people who are making products on top of them, as long as they're focused towards solving these specific problems, more products will get created. People will find more efficiencies in using these tools.
Because of course that's the problem, that once you have this plethora of choice, we know from psychology that actually people become more unhappy when they have too many choices. So they have to try and restrict their choices in order to keep that happiness measure. And I think also thinking about that, the example of, say, maybe social media, and you've got all of these different recipes and you've got access to so many options. I think that you probably do find yourself limiting yourself to certain creators or certain influencers who have kind of pulled together all the recipes that you like, and you like their particular style and you like their particular taste. So something like IP Author can be a kind of influencer, bringing together all of the technology and leveraging all of the power of the technology, like from the different models and so on, and putting that together for the attorneys who, probably don't have the time, don't have the energy to be going through all of the different choices that they have. They want to be able to pick something that's going to be able to offer them all, the right kinds of choices, and to be able to guide them through the process of being able to leverage AI. Do you think, Samir, is that an accurate understanding of where this is going to go?
I think there's I think, like, at the basic level, when we get down, the large language models, right, like the Claudes and the Chat GPTs and the Geminis, are pretty much commoditized at this point in time, right? Like, in the sense that if you look at a bunch of models like Kimi or DeepSeek or Quen, they're almost as good as the main models from Google, etc.
Interesting.
So the technology is commodifying rapidly. There's open source, there's everything available. But at the user level, there's it's very challenging to use them on a day-to-day basis reliably. It's very challenging to use them if you are trying to do an end-to-end workflow, and that you are trying to maintain your, you're trying to keep track of the changes you made to your application. You're trying to make sure that you're looking at the prior art that is most relevant to you, that you're working around the prior art, that you're when you're working on an office action, that you understand what the examiner has cited. All of those things, keeping track of everything, that's not being nobody's taking care of that for you right now. And that whole piece is missing today, and that is what we are bringing, the entire workflow. That's that, as Sumair said, that doesn't exist, and that has to be built, that has to be created, that has to be maintained. That is where a lot of the value is for the user. At the end of the day, um, that is what is going to help them be actually efficient, right? Like actually um, reliably efficient, right? Like, if you have a track record of what changes you made to the application, then you can go back and answer any questions your client has asked. Or if you have done your research thoroughly about the prior art, you can confidently respond to an office action. Uh, if you've just been chatting with a chatbot to get your application out, all that is missing. When the office action comes back,
Yeah.
you're starting from scratch. You didn't really get any efficiencies out in the big picture sense. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done in each domain, right? Like in patents or in financial tech, every industry, there's a lot of work that is to be done, and that can only be done by experts and specialists like us, right? Like it is not something that Google is going to solve for you, because they've got other challenges to work on right now. And that is why IP Author exists, to be able to provide this platform for people to get their job done. It's the platform, so that is what we are aiming for, that is what we've been working towards. That's why our customers like what we built for them.
Mhm. And there's an interesting point you mentioned, Samir, in the and that hit me really. It hit me right in the right where it matter is that you talk about say you're typing or drafting an application or responding to an office action. There is so much data exchange that happens between you and the model. Most often, what happens with models is that, I don't know, I'm just maybe making this up. This term is lost in the middle syndrome. Is that when you do a lot of this kind of exchange of information, most often what happens is that what some detail somewhere gets missed, right? And that cannot be, you cannot have that in pattern world, right? So you have to have guardrails around the use of the AI be built to such an extent that this lost in the middle syndrome should not happen on you, right? So it's not just choices. I have more choices and somebody is trying to pick the right choices for me. But in those choices, the right amount of salt, the right amount of searing or whatever you're eating needed to happen has happened. And that's where the value add is.
And the fire isn't left on, or it's not, the pot is not left
Yeah,
over the fire, and
exactly.
then it
Yeah.
burns, and then you
Yeah.
lose the whole thing.
True.
Right.
Okay, fantastic. Well, as we are unfortunately coming to the end of our chat, I have my last question for you both, which is what we always like to end on, which is what is the thing that you're getting your AI agent to do for you overnight whilst you sleep? What little task have you been giving it lately? So, Samir, please, we'll start with you.
Okay, so my agent has been working diligently over the last couple of days in trying to take every single patent application that is pending, every single office action that is pending, and creating responses for all of those office actions, and then trying to predict what the future will look like. And I'm really happy that right now this agent is about able to predict the office action response that'll be acceptable to that particular uh, patent examiner. It's able to predict about 70% of the time
Wow.
accurately, right? And it's able to do that quite comfortably and fairly fast. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Fantastic, fantastic. Sumair, what have you got?
I am not ashamed to um, acknowledge that I'm not a nerd like Samir. What I'm doing is rather slightly more trivial. Is that so in the garden, in the backyard here, I put up new soil, and
Fantastic.
what I used AI to do on a continuous basis is to measure the precipitations, basically how much rain we've had in the area, so that the seeds that I've sown of the grass, when do they need to be moistened? So the soil needs to have
Fantastic.
the right amount of
When you need to water them, basically.
exactly, yeah. It
Okay,
should not be overwatered. It should not be underwatered. At least for the first 4 or 5 days, at least a week, it should have the right amount of moisture. I did not know what's the right amount of moisture. I thought I could use AI for it. So it's tracking the weather and telling me how many minutes should I water it for.
That's amazing.
I
So
mean-
it's not just about generally how much water you should give for that particular plant. It's also coordinating it with how much rain you're going to be getting.
Exactly, yeah.
Fantastic.
And the
That's
temperature,
brilliant.
because obviously
yeah.
there will be evaporation. So it said you have to think of a dark chocolate color. When it's not dark chocolate color, you should if it's 25 degrees Celsius, and if it's milk chocolate colored, those kernels will start drying out, and you'll lose on it. So I thought, okay, fine, let me just use you to inform me how many times and for how much time each time should I water it.
Samir, I am with you on using the LLMs to help me with my plant management. I have a couple of house plants, as there's one in my background there, and I have a few others, but I have to be honest, I am not the best plant caretaker. So quite frequently I'm sending in pictures and it's giving me a little detailed description of what's going on. And it tells me the kind of health status according to the leaves. And it tells me what I should need to do in terms of the watering. We also have a little chat about the soil. It's great.
Cool.
I have my personal
That's
gardener.
awesome.
Yeah. So thank you very much, both of you. It's been a wonderful
Thank you.
conversation. So we will chat again next week, and goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.